Hey, welcome to this week's Table Talk podcast. It's Caleb. I'm here with David, coming off a big 4th of July weekend. David, how was your guys' weekend?
It was really fun. We had a good time, lots of family. We cooked 2 giant pork butts.
Nice.
Huge ones. And we smoked them 19 hours.
Nice.
It was so good.
Good stuff.
Yep. And did a little fireworks and, and blew some money up.
Nice.
You know?
Yep. As one does.
Yes.
You can do that in a lot of ways, not just fireworks. So.
Yep. And then Sunday we had a great day. We had our ice cream sundae, Sundae, and so families and then several volunteers and stuff stayed after, and we did pizza and ice cream, and we didn't do anything super special. We just spent time hanging out with each other and getting to know people, and it was a good weekend. The starter on my car went bad yesterday.
Oh, I was wondering. I saw you had the other car today. I didn't know.
Yep. I ran into Zaxby's to get Brittany's salad that she likes from there.
So it's really her fault.
Yes.
Yeah.
Salad's fault.
Salad's
it's actually
fault.
salad.
Yeah.
And I've never had red meat let me down.
That's
you know
true.
What I mean?
A steak has never disappointed me. That's right. That's right. Never caused an electrical failure.
Yes. So went in, everything seemed fine. Went out, tried to turn over. It did nothing. And so, but got it in the shop and started working on. So, just a regular weekend.
Just the way it goes. Yeah.
Yep. So it's used cars, and that's the life we live in. So, but it's good. How about you? How was your weekend?
It was good. 4th of July was good. Spent most of the day outside by the pool. That was nice. Just hung out. And Saturday, pretty much did the same thing. Got some stuff done around the house. Got my curtain rod hung.
There you go.
So it's officially up. So that's nice. Only took a week. So, but it's all good. And then Sunday, church went well. Ron did a good job Sunday, and spent some time Sunday evening, and yesterday over in Virginia. Went over there with Alan in Sequoias, his coaching and consulting firm, sitting in on a training over there with micro churches, a group of micro churches over there, doing some same vision framing stuff that we did last year. Yeah. So I got to go over and take part of that a little bit. That was fun. I got to meet some cool people, and it's good. It's a good weekend. Yeah. Busy weekend, but good.
I bet that was super interesting. Just see a different church, different style church, different context. I'm sure that was really cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's definitely, the obviously the style is very different, just the method and the model of how they do things, but it's a different, local expression, a different context, different people. One of the things that it's great to have a local church body you're tied to, but that can insulate us sometimes, and we forget that, God's doing stuff in other places too. And so to see where he's moving them is very cool, and it's fun for me to see. We went through that process and the conversations we had, and some of the big questions at the beginning, and that's what Sunday was. It was an introductory kind of here is where we're going to be going. Kind of laying the groundwork. It was funny to see them kind of have the same questions and kind of wrestling with the same stuff we were. So it was cool, affirming in a lot of ways, and just a neat thing for me to be a part of.
Yeah, I bet it was really cool, really neat. And we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, and I said what's probably what I would find pretty interesting is we have a lot of churches have about the same goal. Like ultimately, what are you trying to do?
Yeah,
get to Christ, get people to Christ. Like, and so a lot of their goals are going to look different or look the same. But then how you get there and even how those goals are laid out is going to be different for each organization, each church and stuff. So, which is really cool, is to see how God's working in different areas and different many kingdoms and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that is really important, is that God has wired churches and congregations, I think, uniquely. So we have a unique group of people here who are gifted uniquely by the Spirit to do a unique part of God's mission. So that's where we've landed on navigating Knoxville toward wholeness in Jesus. I think we have a church that feels passionate about helping people find refuge and safety and growth and healing and wholeness not just in their, church activities, but in their relationships, in their finances, in their mental health, in their physical health, like all these things. We believe God's created us to find healing and growth and wholeness in all those areas. So, but that's a unique expression here. Other churches are very different, and that's okay. Like God uses all of them. And that's what's cool about being part of that process for me, is getting to see, number one, we're not the only game in town, obviously. And two, which this wasn't in town, this was in Virginia, but still you get the idea. And also just how God's wired different people, and how God's just as faithful and just as active in a place that looks a little different as he is here.
Yeah. I think it's cool that you have a group of people who are not willing to accept lower than what God has for them. They're reaching, they're trying to get to, trying to maximize their efforts for the kingdom. Transitioning that a little bit into a little bit of what Ron talked about yesterday. We continued the series on Genesis, and we talked about Jacob. And you said this could be we all said this could be several weeks of a series. And but Ron covered that yesterday, and he talked heavily about Jacob and him stealing the birthright, getting the birthright from Esau when Esau was hungry and stuff. And he kind of talked about how we got to make sure we don't give away what we've got for soup. Like, don't settle for things less. And I think that's a great point to pull out of that lesson. Like, God has big plans for you. Yeah.
Well, we've all been there. We've all done it. We've all, in some form or another, traded away, our integrity or our peace or our, fill in the blank, for something that ultimately wasn't satisfying long term. And so that's not a judgment statement on anybody, because I'm just as guilty of that as anybody else, right? We've all done it. And so, but the idea being, if we keep our eyes focused on what's true, what's the most true thing, what's the highest thing, then we can endure some of those temptations to trade things away, and pursue what's really the most important thing.
Yeah. So that's really good. I know I've done that in my life. I've given up the best for something less, and a lot of times I think that is it's still because all things are created in God, and things like that. It's just a picture of God, but you're giving up a whole picture for just a little piece of it, and it's like, man, you're missing. You don't want to miss out on that, so don't accept less than what God has for you. And I think that's simple. Or I think that's easy to do, not simple to do. I think it's easy. It's
very easy to do. And we live in a culture that wants us to forget who we are.
Yeah.
And, when we forget who we are, we prioritize the wrong things. And, sometimes it's not about forgetting. Sometimes we just choose to prioritize the wrong things. And it's not so much an accident as it is, hey, I made a willful decision to pursue this. Yeah. And again, no shame there, no judgment. It's just that's what tends to happen. And so it's there's this recalibrating within us that has to happen to go, okay, something that I want may not be a bad thing, could actually be a good thing, but this may not be the time or the place for it. And so I need to put all that in its proper context. Yeah. I'm going to pursue what's the ultimate good.
Yeah, it's good. I because it covers so much, I know Jacob getting the birthright, that there's a whole dynamic there, right, of older and younger son. And you see this throughout the whole Old Testament over and over and over again. God choosing, because God did choose Jacob over Esau, but God choosing the younger over the older. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. I mean, there's I don't know if you've noticed this, but God is typically always on the side of the underdog. This is a theme throughout Scripture. God shows up most often on behalf of the the outcast, the marginalized, the oppressed, the underdog. And you see it in the Old Testament specifically how he chooses often to use barren women, women who are unable to have children. He shows up and he makes a way. And women without children were the lowest of the low in ancient societies. So he shows up there. And then he also is almost always using the younger son. You see it over and over. You see it with even Isaac and Ishmael, right? Ishmael is the older son, technically. Didn't matter that his mom was Hagar. He was Abraham's oldest son. And yet God said, no, that's not what my promise is for. Here's Isaac, younger son. Same story here. Esau is the older son. Esau is the one who deserves the birthright and the blessing by nature. And yet Jacob is the one through whom God forms the family of Israel. Now, there was some nefarious scheming that took place there, but other places in Scripture tell us that was God had chosen Jacob. And what does that exactly mean in terms of predestination and all that? That's a mystery to me. I don't know. All I know is that God used the younger son. But then we're going to see this week coming up, God does it with Joseph. Joseph is the youngest of Jacob's sons. And yet he's the one through whom the family of Israel is saved later through the famine, and the one that they can look back to as their kind of spiritual forefather. So God's constantly using the younger son. It happens later with King David too. I mean, you can keep going if you want to. You can trace this a long way down. Cain and Abel, right? Exactly. And it just reinforces this theme about God, that God is he is on and with the underdog most of the time. And I think with David, what's so important is that Samuel says that man looks at the outside, but God looks at the heart. And, I'm not saying that younger children have a better heart. That's not necessarily the case. But God just is able to see things and defy expectations in ways that we often don't make sense of. And one of the things that you say a lot is there's almost God stacking the odds against himself, which I think is very true. Because younger children, women who were barren, like they were, God saying, I'm going to use them. And that is God in a way stacking the deck against himself and saying, look what I can do. Look how good I am. Look who I'm going to show up for and how I'm going to accomplish this. Yeah.
Yep. It's, you see him do it over and over and over again, stack the odds against himself just to show how powerful he is, and to show out and to go, whoa, people go, that's pretty incredible. It's also, we talked about pictures last week. It's a picture of Christ who is born. It says God's one and only son, but they also call other humans sons of God. But this is just like David and Joseph. They are all called. And Isaac said his only son. It wasn't his only son, right? But yet, what it actually means is special and set apart.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the younger brother to the Pharisees, to the Sadducees, and how all these are pictures leading up to Christ and how he comes through and how God used him, which is way better. Yeah. And way greater than any other law or covenant or anything else. Jesus is the fulfillment of those, and way greater as the one that would probably be seen as less likely to succeed.
Yeah, well, and even when we think about the whole Jewish-Gentile division, I mean, there's in some ways you can make that argument that the Gentiles, non-Jewish folks, almost sit in that little brother role, and yet they are the ones that have been now grafted into the tree of true spiritual Israel, meaning the family of God. Whereas the older brothers, the Jewish leaders at the time, many faithful Jewish people of the time missed out on that because of misunderstanding or arrogance or whatever it might be. You see that tension play out in the New Testament a lot. Yeah. The parable of the prodigal son is somewhat connected to that too. So there is just this theme over and over of God working through the younger sibling and defying expectations. Yeah. And that's, again, what I love about Genesis is that we are seeing big truths about God early. And they're consistently applied through Scripture. We get to meet this Yahweh God in Genesis, but we get to see how his true nature is carried out throughout the story of his people throughout the rest of the Bible.
Yeah. He's awesome. And the stories are incredible. Something to wrestle with.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Something to wrestle with, and all of these, all these ideas. The last part of and this is what children's ministry covered, is the story of Jacob wrestling with God, and incredible story, kind of strange, but one that as you live with your relationship with God, I see myself as I've wrestled with God. It says that Jacob wrestled with God all night long, and that not until morning that God touched his hip and crippled him. And Jacob, his whole life, had been wrestling with other people, had been fighting, had been scheming, and just his whole life was a fight. It feels like he goes to get married, and he gets tricked, and he has to fight back against that. And his brother, and he's scared of his brother. His brother's coming. His whole life is spent fighting, and we see God coming, and God saying, "Hey, I'm with you," and coming to him, and he wrestles God until the moment that he can't wrestle anymore. Yeah. And it's so interesting, because you would think, okay, he gives up, which he gives up, but he doesn't let go.
Right.
He relents, and he holds on to this figure that is God, that is there wrestling him. He says, "I'm not until you bless me.
Yeah.
Not until you bless me will I let go." And that's, to me, that's such a beautiful picture of my life.
Yep.
I've wrestled against God. There's been large portions of my life where I was fighting against him and arguing with him and pulling. And I want to do it. I want to be on his side, but at the same time, I want it to be my way. And a lot of times, not until I'm hurt or until he allows something to happen that just brings me to my knees. Am I not ready to say, "Okay, God, it's yours, and I'm yours. Just bless me."
Yep.
And that's all I have left is his blessing and his promises. And I look at that and go, oh, what a beautiful picture.
Well, the thing I love about it is that, number one, I think the story of Jacob wrestling with God gives us permission to wrestle with God, which is a beautiful thing. The fact that God is so assured of his own self, not in an arrogant way, but he's like, "I'm God, I can handle it. Let's go." That he and Jacob needed that, I think. I mean, I think about all the tension in Jacob's life, with his parents, with his brother, with, you read later in the story with his uncle Laban, right? And Leah and Rachel, his two wives. There's all this tension. There's all this internal strife in Jacob. And you're right, he's wrestling with other people, he's fighting. And I think just God giving him that space to wrestle with God's own self was what Jacob needed. And I think there's a beauty in that God gives us permission to wrestle it out. I think the Psalms are a picture of that, right? God gives us permission to lament and be angry, and all of these things. And I think that, Paul picks up on this later in the New Testament when he says that we should work out our salvation with fear and trembling. This idea that it doesn't mean we need to cower in fear, but it's hey, we should approach this thing and we should wrestle it, and we should be serious about it. We should try to get in there and figure it out. And that does take some wrestling. And I just think it's a really good reminder for us that when we feel like we're struggling, or we're wrestling, or we're questioning, or whatever, we're trying to sort through this. That not only does God give us permission to do that, but he actually shows up in that space with us and for us. And if we hold on, God will bless us. And that's what he did for Jacob. I think Jacob died much more at peace. Now, he had some more things along the way with Joseph and all that, but I think Jacob died at peace, seeing the blessing of God his father, rather than dying in this sense of internal chaos, that we kind of known him with up until that point.
Yeah. And you do see when he finally submits to God, that some of that tension, not all of it, like you said, but some of that tension releases. His brother is coming. He thinks his brother's coming to kill him.
Yeah.
But God has obviously been working on the other side of it too, and blessing his brother and helping his brother heal. And when they finally meet up, it's like, oh, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful picture of our relationship with Christ. I think you're right that it does give us permission to wrestle, to have questions, to wonder why God is allowing something to happen. Unfortunately, a lot of times I think we're like Jacob in the sense that we're not willing to give up that wrestling until we feel like we can't anymore.
Yeah.
Like we're done. I can't fight anymore.
Yeah.
I can't keep wrestling like this. I can't keep fighting against God. I have to relent. But that's when God goes, okay.
Yeah.
I've got some good stuff for you.
Yep. Yeah. It's a great story, and it's very, I think it's timely. I think it's relevant. I think it is applicable for all of us in some way. And again, it's those big truths about God that we see in Genesis that remind us of who he is, and then give us a blueprint for how to interact with him. And I think it's just, I know, it's a very, very meaningful story.
Yeah, for sure. Next week we're continuing, right? We're continuing to talk about Genesis. Is this the last week?
This is the last week, unless I get a wild hair and change my mind, which is possible. So we have 1 week left, which is technically Joseph. But I'm toying with, do I extend it for a week and maybe hit Jacob wrestling with God a little more in depth? I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess just come Sunday and find out. Yeah. But right now, this coming Sunday is the last week, and we'll finish with Joseph, and then we'll move into Reset, which is kind of just like a time to slow down and pause and rest as we wait, for kind of school year to kick back off and rhythm to come back into play. And I can't believe it's already almost the end of July. I mean, I know right now it's July 8th as we record this, but next Sunday is July 13th. We're almost halfway through the month. Which is just crazy. This year has gone by so fast.
Yep. I Sunday for the meal thing, I had to run to Dollar General to get some stuff, and I went in and they had school supplies out.
I know.
I was like, no.
It's crazy. It is really, and I don't know if it's just this year, if this is just how it feels. I mean,
yeah.
But
I think we're just getting older.
I think we're just getting older.
We also, when we were younger, had 3 solid months. At least I did. I had 3 solid months of summer. Yeah. Every summer. And that changed at some point to where they didn't have that. They made breaks longer during the school year, and probably better. I don't know. Yeah. But summer did feel like forever when I was younger.
Yeah.
So not anymore.
It's a blink. Yeah. It's gone. But it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, it's we are rapidly approaching the end of summer.
Yep. It's good. I'm excited about it. This has been a great series. Whether we wrap up this week or the next, I know it'll be a good ending, and I'm looking forward to the next series.
Yeah. Just a little insider baseball on that. Like, the sermon series are planned pretty much for the entire year, like the year before. So usually September, October is usually that kind of time of gathering and praying. Okay, where's God wanting to lead us? What do we cover this year? What do we miss? Where do we feel like God's taking us for the year to come? That's how this year kind of worked, but I always try to build margin in a little bit. So there are a couple weeks that are left intentionally empty, or sometimes even serious because we just don't know. But God may bring something up, maybe to shift things around. And so that's the fun part of this for me, is getting to be I love planning ahead because I think we can create a roadmap through the year, but also leaving the space to go, okay, well, what if God wants us to go this way? Or what if this thing pops up and we need to talk about it?
Yeah.
So there's already been some of that shifting this year. I canned 3 series we were going to do in the fall, maybe 2.5. so that we could work in a series through the Apostles' Creed in the fall.
Cool.
And I'm really excited about that. But it just felt like, in this kind of time we're in, there's a lot of big questions about what is this truly about? Like, what are the fundamentals? What do we really believe? What is this? And why don't we go through the Apostles' Creed together? So I think that's going to be really fun, and to really hit on like these are core truths. Like, these are things we will not let go of. This is what we hold on to. So that's coming in September, I think. We got a few more to go till we get there, but I'm excited about it.
It'll be great.
So should be fun, and stay tuned. Sunday we'll hit something in Genesis, and we'll see you guys next week on the Table Talk podcast. Have a great weekend.